Hello everybody, this is Final Draft on camera in person, and I'm here today with Amy Keating Rogers.
Hello everyone, I'm also in person on camera.
These things, it's the magic of technology.
It is.
And today we're here to talk about season 4. I've interviewed you before.
Yes.
On the radio thing and also on panels, but I haven't talked to you yet about season 4. So you've written so far on seasons 1, 2, and 4.
Yes.
And my first question is, how has the process for writing for My Little Pony changed over the seasons? Is there a significant difference into how you approach it now that we're this far into the show?
I mean, the only difference really is that we have, the good thing is we have so many under our belt and we all know the characters really well. So that's a fantastic thing. The thing when you've written this many episodes is that, coming up with original stuff. So that's always, the bigger challenge. Is you want the ponies to go through new experiences and to come up with fun and different things, but otherwise the process is the same of coming up with a premise, and then you go in for story meetings and you beat out a story and write an outline, write a script. All that's still the same.
Do you go through a purging process of stuff that you think is just not original enough? I mean, you mentioned that you're trying to keep it fresh. Do you ever catch yourself, say, doing like a habitual pony writing thing? Or?
We all go in, we'll have these writers' summits and we had one before season 4 began, where a bunch of the writers came into a room and you come in with, 3 to 5 ideas, more if you have them, and then you just throw them out and you go through and I think it was only Megan and I were the only two that had been there since the beginning. So the two of us, as we went through ideas, we were able to go, okay, no, we can't do that, we've done that. Okay, we've done something similar to that. And not that the other people hadn't watched stuff, but it's one of those things when it's been kind of part of your life for a long time, you really, you know it better. It's just a matter of, just throwing all that stuff out there and saying, okay, now where do we want to take the show? And with this season, with season 4, Megan, I showed up kind of later into season 4. Actually, I came to a second writer's summit. They had one previously before I came back. And so Megan had mapped out this whole thing of what's going to happen with the chest and those kind of, we had kind of points that we knew we had to hit in order to get to where she was going with the season finale. So there was this thing which was different for Pony. We did something kind of like this in season 1, but where the last thing was the Grand Galloping Gala.
Yeah.
But that was never our original intention. We did Ticketmaster, and then I think we had another writer's summit, and we said, well, what if we actually ended up at the Grand Galloping Gala as the finale? And then we said, okay, then that's when Charlotte's episode about the dresses came up. So, what would make a nice trilogy for that? So, taking that much further in season 4, there is more of a, following what the key episodes are to get to that season finale, and so that was a bit of a different
Well, it
thing.
seemed like season 1 and season 2 were more about establishing the show, establishing the parameters, establishing the characters. And it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but season 4 has been a lot more about expanding on the universe itself, but also expanding on the individual character.
Right.
Because we've got the established, okay, Pinkie Pie is ridiculous. We've got the established Fluttershy is shy. And it seems like a lot of it's been really pushed this season. And of course, notably this season, you had the episode that featured Weird Al, where Pinkie Pie is basically faced with another version of herself, and that kind of conflict.
Right.
I wanted to quick talk about that episode. Weird Al is such a big, weird nerd person, right? That's not a good way to describe it, but basically he's so well known.
Right, he's a big personality.
Yeah, and he's so well known not only just for his his mock songs, but also his satires and his parodies. But he's also known for playing accordion, and he's also known for his humor and his appearances. When you were writing that episode, did he have any say in the content of it? Did he have any influence on how it was written?
Nope.
So then when you were writing it, I imagine you knew that it was going to be featuring him.
We knew that that is who we wanted.
Okay.
But while I was writing it, it wasn't set in stone. So when I wrote Cheese Sandwich, I wrote Cheese Sandwich as a character, and put all of the character conflicts and all of that in, regardless of who was going to play him.
Sure.
And crossing our fingers that we were going to get Weird Al, and certainly knowing that it was a good chance we were going to get Weird Al. I could certainly, Cheese Sandwich was wacky and over the top and all of that stuff. So obviously knowing that that's who I was projecting for, that helped influence how the character was written. But yeah, he didn't help with the lyrics of the music or any of that stuff in my writing stage. It was just, a real, hope that we were going to get him. And I wrote it like I would write any episode, just trying to make a well-rounded character. That when either Weird Al or anybody else who was playing him, when they came in, they would have something fun to work with that they could act.
Yeah. Well, and I know that when Emmy Larson was describing to me one time when he was preparing to write Return of Harmony, he went and watched a whole bunch of Star Trek to get the feel of Discord, and they didn't know it was John Delancey, but I guess Lauren had told him, this.
That was hopefully,
that they were hoping for a Q-like character, and then of course it ended up being John Delancey. Who did a brilliant job. Did you go and watch a bunch of Weird Al stuff to get in that moment, or are you already?
I didn't. I grew up listening to Weird Al's music, so I know what his thing is. So I felt like I kind of had Weird Al in my, just my background of my life.
Sure.
So, because, that was just part of, we heard those songs growing up, so I knew about Weird Al. So I didn't feel like I needed to verse myself in Weird Al.
And maybe it's just because he was voicing it, but the character himself really just felt like, okay, this is the pony version of Weird Al. I mean, and in fact, the way they animated it with the cheese sandwiches.
Yes.
Now, where did you come up with the name Cheese Sandwich? That's always confused me.
That was actually Jason Thiessen's, the name he wanted this character to have was Cheese Sandwich. And I said, okay, if somebody says this is the character's name, I'm just going, oh, you got it.
Did you have a name in mind otherwise? Or?
No, because it was Jason's original idea. He said, what if there's a character, what if Pinkie Pie is challenged on the partying, kind of her partying title gets challenged by another pony that comes into town, and his name is Cheese Sandwich. And that was the premise that he pitched, and then Megan and I figured out the rest of the story in a story meeting. Sure.
Well, an episode obviously has gotten a lot of acclaim. I mean, really, your two big episodes, that one and Philly Vanilli, have gotten a lot of attention. They're both a lot of Pinkie Pie in both of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Philly Vanilli actually doesn't have a lot of Pinkie Pie, just a lot of noticeable things.
A lot of concentrated Pinkie Pie, maybe, like very notable. Are you now the go-to Pinkie Pie writer?
I don't know if I am. In the musical episode, it was just good luck that it ended up being Pinkie Pie. I knew when I came back, I knew I was writing a musical when I came back, that's what was slated. And Megan said, hey, would you want to write a musical? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And the first thing that we had this big story meeting, and the episode that we pitched for the musical was originally Bats. And the reason it's called Bats is it's a play on Cats, the musical. So, when I wrote that premise, to send, to the studio and everything, I said, okay, and this is where a song would be, and this is where a song would be, and I went through the whole thing, and they said, yeah, we like the episode, but we don't want it to be the full musical, and it's still got songs, so that's cool. But they said, yeah, we don't feel like that's the musical. And so then Jason said, what about this story with Pinkie Pie? And of course, I love Pinkie Pie, and I said, yeah, I'd love to write a Pinkie Pie musical. So it was just good luck.
Well, okay, so overall then, because we only have a few more minutes left, overall looking at season 4 and beyond, I mean, where do you see, and I know you can't say too much about it, but where do you see the course of the show? Because in general, like we had mentioned earlier, season 1 was a lot about the character development. Season 2 was kind of about expanding on it. And season 4 has, like you mentioned, a larger, grander storyline.
Right.
Is that the trend we can maybe expect in as general of terms as possible? That it's more going to be the epic, more going to be the adventurous, or?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's more about who are these characters now. I mean, now that who are these characters continuing to be. They're not stagnant. They don't kind of go back to square one at the beginning of every episode. So what would their adventures be as they continue? I don't know what happens when that chest is open. And so where do we go from there? So,
but also too, actually, in terms of looking at the general, world building, you have actually recently written something that's going to be released a little bit later this year.
Yes.
And I don't want to get the title wrong.
It's the Journal of the Two Sisters.
There you go, the Journal of the Two Sisters.
Yes.
And it's that journal that Twilight is writing.
Right. So in Castlemania, Twilight finds the Journal of the Two Sisters, which is a journal that Celestia and Luna wrote while they lived in the Castle of the Two Sisters. And it's kind of their early years as princesses of Equestria. And then, so that's what, there's that section of it, but then, as you know from the episodes, the ponies have actually also been continuing the journal and writing their own entries in there. So, in preparation to write, some of them you don't hear, actually, and some of the journal entries that you guys don't hear were actually written, and they just didn't end up in the episodes. So I read all of the scripts before writing the Journal of Friendship section, and took the sections of those journal entries and kind of built upon them, and then added other things, and so it's a kind of a two-parter, which is neat.
Did they let you, and I obviously can't give away anything, but did they let you kind of delve into more of the details of those early years of those princesses? Because I think everybody who's listening and watching this, I have to keep remembering we're actually on camera too,
right?
Are probably wondering, okay, wait, we're going to hear about them back in the old days, and there's not been a lot developed about the show there. So do you get any amount of detail with that too? Or?
Yeah, well, they're writing journal entries. They have to talk about something. So it's talking about it's Celestia and Luna's experiences as princesses, and when did they become princesses, and what was going on in Equestria at that time. And what we know from Castlemania is that they built the castle during those years. So, and that castle has all these crazy things, these trapdoors, and a place where you can stick your hoof, through a wall and stuff. Okay, so how did they come about building that castle, and why is it like that, and that kind of thing, and interactions with perhaps different ponies that maybe you've seen before, been mentioned or something, and I'm just saying that there might be some familiar names.
Now, in the development of this book, I imagine it wasn't just a solitary effort. I mean, you did the writing, but was it approached like an episode? Was there a story meeting for it?
There wasn't.
So they basically said, "Here, we want this. Go."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was given the direction of we want it kind of between these years and these years, and we want let's start. Well, I knew where I wanted to start, and then it became and let's finish with this big thing, and there was a little bit of I was kind of given some direction, and I said, okay, well, what if I do do this, and we lead up to this. But then it was me kind of just going through and trying to build an interesting, so it's not just boring journal entries. So I'm building a story that within journal entries you learn more about these sisters and their relationship, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine there's a lot of the fans out there listening to this are really excited to see this, and some of us maybe on camera too, really wanting to read this thing.
I'm excited for you guys to read it, because I had a lot of fun writing it, and I put a lot of myself into it. So it was a lot of fun. I think folks will like it.
Very excited to see what it does, and how it's always fun with these sorts of things, how it affects the fandom, even because you get to see these this artwork, this music come out of it,
Right.
and of course the fanfic authors always tearing their hair out, but that's
Right.
amusing to watch as well.
Right.
Anyway, all right, well,
Yeah.
we are out of time,
Okay.
so I want to thank you for
You're
taking
welcome.
the time to sit with me at this busy intersection.
Very busy. The busiest intersection in Glendale, I think.
yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it's nice and warm here. It's not frozen, and so by comparison, as a Minnesotan, I'm quite happy with the locale. Volume issues aside. All right, thanks so much.
You're welcome.